These guys feel like they could have been a 4-star unit. Just think of how many paired up units are already 4 stars. Hey, what if these units are from the same series? But then you gotta respect that super limit burst sprite. Look at that power! Kiros Ward's Trustmaster reward is a 2-handed spear with more defense than attack. It also has a powerful double dragon killer and automatically activates Gaia's Ring every turn, which gives your unit a HP barrier. Furthermore, when equipped onto Kiros Ward, it gives them a very strong passive, boosting their HP by 300%, their defense by 200%, and straight up boost their attack by 500 and defense by 1044. That has to be a reference to something, but I have no idea what. Their Super Trustmaster reward is a 2-handed short sword. These guys were never meant to be partnered up, were they? It switches out to Dragon Killer for a strong human killer, but there's no barrier effect. However, for Kiros Ward, they do get 500 attack and 1041 spirit. Someone explain this number! Also 30% boost to physical and magical evasion. Also, upon entering the battle, they automatically activate Accelerator, which boosts their limit burst gauge fill rate by 200% and reduces their cooldowns by 10 whole turns. Now I know this sounds extremely odd because what's the point if they only enter again when they die, and that's exactly the point. What incredible game design! Onto their active abilities. Provoke is Provoke. Splash Anchor deals water damage that self-chains a Bolting Strike, and lowers the enemy's water resistance by 120%. Bloodstorm deals wind damage that self-chains a Stardust Ray, and boosts their fire, water, wind, and earth resistance by 80%. Something inside me tells me to listen can only be used once per battle. It boosts their attack by 280%, gives them a powerful human and dragon killer buff, boosts their limit burst damage by 200%, and fills their limit burst gauge if it's at max level. Resonance Wall has a whopping 10-turn cooldown and can't be used on the first turn unless you've got a 2-handed short sword that's clearly being dual-wielded. In return for being incredibly obstinate, it activates a very powerful 90% magic mitigation buff, a 90% physical and magic mitigation buff. I just said that doesn't sound right, and raises ice, lightning, light, and dark resistance by 80%. Robust Guard can be used once per battle. It grants Kiros Ward an incredible 75% physical and magical mitigation buff against human and dragon enemies. Passives. With their Trustmaster reward or Super Trustmaster reward equipped, Kiros and Ward get a big buff to their limit burst and chain damage. They also have several strong killers: beasts, humans, dragons, and reapers. They don't have a limit burst damage buff without their lock passive, but they do have a small limit burst regen and some physical evasion. They also have a 50% boost to passive provoke, meet half the boost to the chain limit cap, and prefer to carry a single weapon. Depending on whether or not you give them a spear or a dagger, they'll get different passives. Equip a spear and you get extra HP and defense, alongside a 30% boost to all elemental resistance. Equip a dagger and you get even more evasion and extra attack and spirit. At EX plus 2, they get Warring Spirit. At EX plus 3, they get 500 attack. Onto their limit burst. It self-chains, gives Kiros Ward a 60% physical and magic mitigation buff, and deals water damage. As a super limit burst user, Kiros and Ward automatically activate attack shift when their super limit burst is ready. It boosts their attack by 250%, their limit burst damage by 200%, and fills their limit burst gauge. The super limit burst itself raises the mitigation to 75% and deals even more water damage. Let's rank Rave abilities. Raising them just raises their damage, not their effects. Since they're better with water, I'd prioritize Splash Anchor over Bloodstorm. Time to make a damage rotation. On turn 1, triple cast Splash Anchor. On turn 2, cast Something Inside Me Tells Me to Listen, and double cast Splash Anchor. On turn 3, use your limit burst. On turn 4, triple cast Splash Anchor. On turn 5, use your super limit burst. Repeat their water attacks from here. Obviously, in an actual fight, you'll likely start with their defensive tools first, but that greatly depends on their team and the fight. So, EX2. As a super limit burst user, Kiros and Ward automatically benefit from additional EX awakenings. At EX plus 2, they also get Warring Spirit, which can give them an instant limit burst. Frankly speaking, if you have EX plus 2, you also have their Super Trustmaster reward, which can let you use Resonance Wall at the start of the battle, which pretty much overshadows the defensive benefits from their limit burst. But it is an instant tag chain for big water damage, if you need that for whatever reason. At EX plus 3, they get 500 attack. I mean, if you're really going to go for it, you must be a very passionate person. So how good is Kiros Ward? The pair is a damage dealer with defensive properties, and with proper provoke and evasion, they can also serve as a single target tank. Given their passives and abilities, they can actually do a decent job at surviving hits, though admittedly this requires fairly heavy investment and a lot of catering to the given fight. As far as their damage output goes, so long as they aren't being held back, it's impressive, but still falls behind Xenogears, to give you an idea. Ultimately, Kiros and Ward are a strong unit that can aid with damage, chain support, and tanking specific hits. However, this doesn't mean they're a godsend for most teams, as their chain support is locked to 2 different elements, and they don't have a flexible option otherwise. They're certainly an interesting take on a unit, and are a refreshing change of pace from big damage with different element, and I can only hope that this will be developed further. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, leave a like and subscribe. Comment below if you got these 2 guys. I have never heard a single player mention these 2 characters, but here they are. Man, can you imagine if Kiros and Ward were a top tier damage dealer rivaling the likes of Knights of Grand Shout? Can you imagine if they surpassed Stormseeker Esther? That would be funny, but too bad they don't.